Always a pleasure to be here. Welcome to Iron Port. Iron Port is brought to you by Ghana Revenue Authority, Go PLC, Serene Insurance, Ghana Link Network Services, Meridian Port Services, and Finis Insurance. The show is proudly powered by the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority-GPHA, and our media partner is a Business and Financial Times, BNFT. Get the Thursday edition of BNFT newspaper for more on today's episode. Remember, you can also join us live at all our social media platforms. On Facebook, we are streaming live at Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority and at Port of Tema. And on YouTube, we're streaming live on Iron Port. Remember, you can also get the opportunity to interact with us via our dedicated WhatsApp line 0538037353, 0538037353. We'll also open the phone lines in the course of the show for you to make your contributions towards the discussion. So grab your phones and let's get interactive. I will introduce my guests who will delve deep into today's topic after this break. Please stay.
Good energy brings you quality choices with Goil Super XP. Available in many Goil stations nationwide. It is fortified with special additives that help your engine perform better and use less fuel. Branch into a Goil station today and energize your ride with Goil Super XP, compatible with most vehicles. Goil Super XP will feel ya, huh? Will be feel. Goil, good energy. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Electricity, then pay your taxes. Yeah. Our taxes, our future.
Because you see, without our taxes, we wouldn't have good roads, good schools, better hospitals, street lights, and other very important social amenities. When we pay our taxes, we give our children free and quality education. Talga, my money too small. Why should I pay my tax? Look, small. Salifo, it doesn't matter how small or big your business or income is. You still have to pay your taxes. The little taxes from each and every one of us, when put together, could give your community clean water or that deprived school with tables and chairs. Please pay your taxes. It is your responsibility. It is your civic duty. It is the law.
MPS Terminal 3 is Africa's new state-of-the-art container terminal at Tema Port. For manufacturers, agro-processors and traders, the new port means business can be done faster. This infrastructure boost will improve Ghana's port handling capacity, connect more trading routes, and oil the engine of growth for the economy, creating greater opportunities across all sectors as Africa's markets merge and become the largest trading bloc globally. MPS, we connect, you thrive.
Business and life can be like the sea sometimes. Sometimes serene, sometimes calm, sometimes turbulent, and at times it brings the unexpected. However it is like, trust Phoenix Insurance for your home, car, business, and marine insurance needs. Call 0302 0246 319 or 0243 690 492.
At Phoenix, you experience a delightful service delivered with wisdom.
Welcome back to Iron Port. Iron Port is powered by Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority-GPHA, and as always, you can trust Iron Port to update you on the happenings at the port and the maritime industry. Let's check out what has been going on during the week.
A significant high-level stakeholder engagement was held in Accra last Wednesday, marking a critical milestone in the ongoing project to strengthen local capacity and address the destabilizing impacts of foreign fishing vessels in the Gulf of Guinea and Mauritania. Organized by the Center for Maritime Law and Security Seamless Africa in partnership with the Center for Coastal Management at the University of Cape Coast, this event brought together key industry experts and policy leaders to discuss strategies for reshaping Ghana's fisheries sector. The high-level gathering highlighted essential findings from recent reports on monitoring, control, and surveillance capabilities and local ownership strategies within Ghana's industrial fishing sector. These reports were produced through a collaborative effort with stakeholders across Ghana's fisheries sector, underscoring the sector's commitment to sustainable practices and regional governance. Speaking on behalf of the U.S. Department of State Regional Environment Officer at the U.S. Embassy, Justin King, reaffirmed continued support for Ghana's fight against illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing, which has drained the country of over $2 billion in revenue annually.
With the launch of this project, promoting local capacity to address the stabilizing impacts of foreign fishing vessels in the Gulf of Guinea and in Mauritania, the United States government is reinforcing its commitment to regional cooperation to build stronger rules and standards governing fisheries. Additionally, the United States government aims to engage with flag, coastal, port, and market states to promote responsibility and accountability.
The Chief Director at the Ministries of Fisheries and Aquaculture Development, Dr. Marianne Papa, representing the sector minister, highlighted the new Fisheries and Aquaculture Bill currently before Parliament, which is anticipated to bring substantial reforms.
The new bill, which we have deposited with Parliament, awaiting Parliament's enactment, includes stricter licensing standards for foreign-owned vessels, requiring clearer ownership, transparency, and compliance with sustainability protocols. It also includes stiffer penalties for vessels engaged in IUU fishing or environmental degradation, and these include significant fines, seizures, and blacklisting.
The deputy ranking member of the Parliamentary Select Committee on Food, Agriculture and Cocoa Affairs, Godfrey Seydou Gisal, reinforced Parliament's commitment to transformative action within the fisheries sector.
But we are committed to ensuring that reflections from all stakeholders in this subsector are reflected, particularly that the timing is good for us to take advantage of a new law to be able to support a legal and regulatory framework and environment to ensure that whatever policy recommendations are made, particularly from this work that we are doing today, and therefore this dialogue can be accommodated within a legal structure.
Dr. Kamal Din Ali, Executive Director and Project Lead at SIM Laws Africa, further discussed the project's objectives and milestones with Iron Port.
So we expect that the discussions here will communicate the discussions through our project funding agency, but also to the relevant ministries and institutions. And those recommendations will be before their table as policy recommendations. But they will have to transform them into policy actions, and that is what we'll be looking up to. What we expect is that given the good findings and initial activities that has been done, that we'll be able to build upon this. So that discussion will have to go on with the funding agency, the U.S. State Department, to provide a phase for now implementing and monitoring that most of the recommendations here are brought into effect. So that is the next critical phase that we are looking at.
In response to concerns over foreign dominance in Ghana's straw and tuna industries, industry representatives shared their perspectives on advancing local participation and ownership in these sectors.
So what I'm saying is, for us not to pretend, let us first remove that hurdle of limiting foreigners' participation in the trawl and allow legitimate trawl guys who own vessels but can come to Ghana and partner Ghanaian to operate. That will take a lot of these things away. And then if it is subjecting them to a more rigorous law, we can't do that.
As far back as the 60s, where we had the State Fishing Corporation, Ghanaians owned vessels. So maybe 50 years, 60 years down the line, why can't Ghanaians own their own vessels? If there are funding issues, I believe that is where government will have to sit down with them and then, absorb some of the cost or give them payment plans and then let them own the vessels. Nobody can profess to love oneself better than he himself. And therefore, if Ghanaians own the vessels, I believe that as Ghanaians, they also would want to manage the resource such that children yet unborn may also come and inherit, a viable natural resource.
And on the international front, a lot more has been happening. Let's now have a global view of the maritime sector.
UNCTAD's review of maritime transport 2024 underscores the crucial role African ports could play in advancing the green hydrogen economy, acting as central hubs for production, distribution, and export across the continent. According to the report, ports, due to their established infrastructure and strategic coastal positions, are poised to facilitate green hydrogen supply to port communities and hinterlands, thus strengthening Africa's role as a global energy exporter. Several major collaborations are underway. CESPA and Sonatrach are focusing on green hydrogen supply from Algeria to Europe, while VNG and partners are exploring imports via the South H2 corridor. In Tunisia, Total Energies, Erin, and Verbund are advancing a hydrogen project aimed at boosting renewable exports. Notably, in 2023, Namibia and Hyphen Hydrogen Energy secured a landmark deal to produce and export up to 300,000 tons of green hydrogen annually, with Angola, Egypt, Mauritania, Morocco, and Tunisia also preparing for similar ventures. The report forecasts that by 2050, Europe will be a major importer of African green hydrogen, fostering decarbonization across industries and supporting Africa's renewable energy ambitions. Thekla Bollywood Shipyards, based in the Netherlands, has launched the Lana, a 5,050 deadweight ton diesel-electric multi-purpose vessel, as part of Transtal Shipping's fleet renewal strategy. Measuring 87.3 meters in length with a 6.3 meter draft, the Lana is the first in the Salmo series, which prioritizes sustainability in design and construction. This vessel class, with capacities between 5,050 and 6,500 deadweight ton, exceeds the International Maritime Organization Energy Efficiency Design Index Phase 3 standard, achieving over 32% below the emission requirement. Equipped with three 532 brake kilowatt generator sets and two 600 electric kilowatt electric motors, the series promotes fuel efficiency, low emissions, and reduced OPEX. The Salmo vessels are engineered to accommodate future fuel options such as methanol and hydrogen without needing an overhaul of the electric propulsion system. The Lana hull shape, optimized for this propulsion, draws on designs from the larger 7,280 deadweight ton Labrax series, which includes orders from Vetom Group. Vetom has taken delivery of several Labrax series vessels, including MV Vetom Party in 2022 and 4 subsequent vessels through 2024, with the most recent addition, Vetom Lisa, joining in June.
And those were some happenings at the port and maritime industry. For the phrase of the day is ISO. ISO.
ISO stands for International Organization for Standardization. It is a worldwide organization formed to promote development of standards to facilitate the international carriage and exchange of goods and services.
That's your phrase of the day, ISO. Now time to check out our safety tip, and it has to do with regular exercise.
Regular exercise. Regular exercise is moving your body for at least 30 minutes a day. 5 times a week can improve your overall health and well-being. Regular exercise releases endorphins, which are hormones that makes you feel good.
And that's your safety and healthy tip. It's on regular exercise. So if you've not been exercising regularly, you may be advised to start exercising regularly. But tonight, we are focusing our attention on the issue of counterfeit and illegal pesticides in Ghana. These products undermine agricultural productivity and threaten public health whilst hindering economic progress. Our aim this evening is to delve deep into the economic, public health, and agricultural implications of counterfeit pesticides and find strategies for effective collaborations. And of course, I've been joined by someone who is well versed in the matter. Kadri Rashad, he's with Crop Life Ghana. I'm happy to have you in the studio.
The pleasure is all mine, Aisha.
I want us to start by actually understanding the scope of the counterfeit and illegal pesticides problem in Ghana.
Sure. Thank you very much, and then a good afternoon to all your viewers out there. The issue of counterfeit and illegal pesticides is a very sensitive one because it's been with us for a long time. And it's not even only with the pesticide industry. It cuts across other sectors and industries as well, and it is difficult to deal with. Now, when we talk about counterfeit, counterfeit is also an illegal pesticide, but people deliberately formulating pesticides to look like the original is what is referred to as the counterfeit, which is not registered in the country of origin. The contents are not well known, and then it is not recognized by law within that country, and that is what we refer to as counterfeit. But then when we move a notch further to look at what illegal pesticides are, that includes counterfeits as well. Illegal pesticides, for instance, goes beyond counterfeit. To look at pesticides that are not really registered within the country, that is Ghana. For instance, you could have a product coming in from the neighboring countries, which we know they speak French. And in Ghana, the law states that all pesticide products has to be registered through the Environmental Protection Agency. And once it's not registered, it is not recognized and it's not due for use in Ghana. And if you look at the products that come in from the neighboring countries, most of the labels are in French. These products are not allowed to be used in Ghana. So they could be genuine from the source of, from the origin, but they are not actually recognized for use because the label is in French. Farmers will not be able to read and write, to read the application warnings on it, and then it will lead to a lot of misapplication and then misuse of these pesticides. So in general, the issue of counterfeit and illegal pesticide, like I said, is a bit dicey, and it's been with us, but it goes beyond our industry as well to even the pharmacies and any other industry also faces the issue of counterfeit and other illegal pesticides. So it's a sensitive issue, and then it goes beyond just our industry. And as I said, even those that are not counterfeit are part of illegal, and the illegal goes beyond all products or pesticide products that are not registered and approved for use in Ghana are deemed illegal, which counterfeit ones are also inclusive.
Let's look at its effects, the impact on public health and the environment. Certainly, we've already agreed that it has dire implications on these areas. What are the effects?
Okay, so let me take you back a little bit. If you look at the pesticides, well, CropLife in itself, we are an international body. We have CropLife International, and from the international level, we are found across the length and breadth of the world. We have CropLife Europe, CropLife America, CropLife Africa, Middle East, CropLife Asia. So if you come to the Africa, Middle East, that is where Ghana is a part of. So we have what we call CropLife Africa, Middle East. And CropLife in itself is the companies that produce these pesticides. So the CropLife national organizations are, for instance, CropLife Ghana. We represent the pesticide industry in Ghana. So all the companies in Ghana that import and distribute pesticides are under CropLife. And we have currently a membership of about 25 companies who bring in these pesticides and fertilizers and other inputs into Ghana as part of CropLife. As I said, from the international perspective, we have those organizations or those companies that really produce these pesticides. And when they produce them, they bring it down to the national levels. We have what we call the active ingredients. Now, for instance, the active ingredient is the main component in the formulation of every pesticide. That makes it what it is. Now, before an active ingredient is being produced, there's a whole lot of research that goes into it. It takes 5 to 8, even 9 years before an active ingredient can be researched on and then produced. And that is a whole lot of time. And within this period, there will be back and forth between the companies and then the research organizations and then the international bodies, the certification bodies as well, to be sure that what the active ingredients that are being produced are fit for purpose and are fit for use without any side effects. Now, when these actives are produced, then they are formulated into pesticides. When we say pesticides, as we all know, side is something that kills. So there's a wide range of pesticides. Those that are used to control insects, we call them insecticides. Those that are used to control nematodes are called nematicides. So it's a broad spectrum. Pesticides are used to control or to kill, and that is established. Now, depending on what type of pest you want to control, that is where we categorize either a weedicide or a herbicide. Herbicide automatically is used to control weeds, and then fungicides is used to control fungi. So these are the broad spectrum of pesticides that we have that have really undergone research before they are being manufactured. Now, there's something we call stewardship, product stewardship. As manufacturers and then innovators of these pesticides, and as CropLife or as industry, we have something we call product stewardship. Stewardship, in the layman's perspective, is what you would do to reduce the effects of these pesticides on the human health, the environment, and then the crops as well, whilst promoting its efficiency. So on one hand, you are trying to suppress its effects, and on the other hand, you are trying to promote its efficiency. And that is stewardship. Now, what companies do is that right down from the research, there's product stewardship from research to manufacturing, importation and distribution. That by then it had come to the country level. Then when it comes to the country level, there's now distribution to the agro-input dealers as well, where we still maintain stewardship, where there should be safe and responsible use of these pesticides within those agro-input dealer shops. Then from the input dealer shops, now it goes to the farmers. We still have to maintain stewardship in that respect. Then even after the farmers, after the use of these pesticides, we still have stewardship and extended producer responsibility to collect these empty containers and then recycle them into non-domestic items or even to incinerate them in most cases.
Yeah.
Now, this line of stewardship is there to protect human health, the crops, and then the environment. But in between, it gets to a level where the numbers that handle the pesticides become greater. And that is where the challenges are. Right down from the research, the products are being guided, no issues of counterfeiting, manufacturing, importation. Now, when it gets to the country, and per the laws, all pesticide products are supposed to be imported into Ghana through the ports. So any pesticide product you see coming into Ghana through the land borders are not recognized.
Okay.
Are not recognized. And that is what the general public should understand. And as industry, we have sensitized a lot of farmers and the general public and the agro-input dealers as well to be very wary of these products that come through the unapproved routes. And that is where the major challenge is when it comes to counterfeiting and other illegal pesticides.
Yeah, that's why I want us to highlight on the impact.
Yes.
What's the impact on our health and on the environment? Maybe if they understand this, I mean, the job will be easier for you and I.
Sure. So, and that is why I took it from the research perspective. Now, these products that are counterfeited, that is to tell you that there's no research that has gone into it because these ones are not approved. Some people sit somewhere and they formulate some concoctions into it. That hasn't been tried and tested. You don't know the actives that are involved in it. Then when you buy them, what it means is that even the dosage rates, you would get them wrong. The actives might be even more, or you don't even understand, might be less, which will not get the effect on your crops and then your produce. There is something we call MRLs. That is maximum residue levels.
Okay.
Now, what it means is that when you apply your pesticides on crops, the acceptable ones, the registered ones, the approved ones, the residue levels are very minimal because they have been tried and tested on those crops. And for instance, they let you know that, okay, when you apply this pesticide on this particular crop, after this number of days, the residues would go off. These have been tried and tested. Now, these counterfeit products, they haven't been tried and tested. No research, no data, no scientific proof. What happens is that when you use these counterfeit products on your crops, they are not going to work like the way they are supposed to work. And on the farmer's level, that is going to be loss of income. Then your crops are not also going to produce like the way they are supposed to produce. Your yields are going to go down, and then your incomes are going to go down. Now, what you are breathing in, what you are spraying, you don't even know the content of that. You don't know the content of that. And when you spray and then you are contaminated by these pesticides, they are going to give you some health issues that even doctors would struggle to identify, because the registered ones, the approved ones, in cases of even contamination, it is written boldly on the labels, the first aid and then the kind of treatment the doctors are supposed to treat. So you send a pesticide to a doctor, and he looks at the active, and he's able to tell you, okay, with this active, this is what I can administer to reduce the effect of it. But counterfeits, you don't know what these actives are, you don't know the content of it, and then they are going to pose a lot of health implications. And as I mentioned, with the MRLs issues too, what happens is that if you use counterfeit, the residue levels are usually very high. So you harvest your produce, and then there are still a lot of residues of those chemicals or those concocted formulations on your produce. And you eat them, and it has a lot of health implications on you. So it affects the human health, it affects the crops, and it affects the environment, water bodies as well. So this is a very serious issue that as CropLife, we have been sensitizing the farmers, that especially those who live around the border towns, that you should be wary of buying products that come from the land borders that have not been registered and approved by the EPA. In Ghana, we have laws that regulate pesticide use, and one of such laws is the Environmental Protection Act, which was enacted in 1994, Act 490, and also the Plant and Fertilizer Act, which was also enacted in 2010, Act 804. So the EPA is the only mandated regulatory organization to register pesticides. And once they register, they are supposed to follow through to see the management and then the use of these pesticides, which we work very closely with them as industry to make sure that what is being registered and approved is what is in the system. But that is not always the case, because we have a lot of fraudulent people who bring these pesticides, counterfeit and illegal pesticides, through the unapproved borders. And especially too on, if you go to these local communities, on the market dates, you would usually see people riding bicycles and then selling products that are suspicious.
Okay.
Yes. And what we should also take note is that as the general public should know that every year the EPA releases a list of approved and registered pesticides for use in Ghana. And in that list, we have another list of banned pesticides. Okay. So at every point in time, if you are privy to the list of the approved pesticides, you know which products have been approved for sale in the market and which ones haven't been approved for sale in the market. And this should guide farmers and then agro-input dealers and the general public.
Okay.
And when buying these products.
Let's look at the most significant health risk on both farmers and the consumers.
Yeah. So significant health risks, it varies from individual to individual.
Okay.
So let me take you back a little bit again. Now, there are 4 ways by which someone can get contaminated with these pesticides, counterfeit and illegal pesticides. Through the skin, during application, the person doesn't use the right personal protective equipment. It can go through, it can get affected through the skin, then possibly through ingestion or by accident. We have farmers who, when they are spraying, they even taste the pesticide to see the efficacy of it, and that is a challenge.
Yeah.
So through the mouth, someone can get infected with these pesticides. Then through the nose, inhalation, by breathing in the pesticides during spraying or even mixing. If you don't use the right personal protective equipment, you can get infected as well, and then through the eyes. Now, the major health risks, like as I said, it varies depending on how you get infected with the pesticides.
Okay.
Through the nose, it comes with a lot of respiratory tract diseases or infections. Through the skin, we have had reports of various skin diseases that farmers get by using these counterfeit and illegal pesticides. And we are also working closely with the poison control, poison information center that is stationed at Rich, that farmers are supposed to call in, or the general public are supposed to call in cases where or suspicions of pesticide poisoning, so that they can diagnose and then advise what treatment to give. So with the health risk, it varies from what active ingredient you take and then which part of your body that it goes to. I give you an example. There was a study somewhere up north. I don't want to mention the exact location.
Okay.
And what they realized was that most of the women were moving from that community to other communities to marry, and there was a lot of promiscuity in that locality. Now they did an investigation to realize that a lot of the men there were impotent.
Yeah.
When they did testing, they tested their blood to see the residues of pesticides in them. It was very high, and a lot of them were counterfeit and illegal. And what they did was that when they are spraying too, they don't protect
their skin. Okay.
We have what we call the personal protective equipments, which starts from the hat, the goggles, the nose masks, the overall, the gloves, and then the Wellington boots.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of our farmers don't do that. And when they did the investigation, they realized that a lot of the men were impotent. And that is one of the health risks that the general public could get when they use counterfeit and illegal pesticides, because these actives are not known. The contents are not known. They have not been scientifically proven and approved for use. So anyone putting an unknown or unsuspecting substance and you go and buy it, this is what it could lead to. Then in terms of the crop use too, what it does is that, as I said, one, MRLs. With the registered and approved one, usually on the pesticide labels, there's something they call the PHI, which is the pre-harvest interval. What it means is that they can tell you that, okay, after spraying this pesticide on your farm, you need to observe a pre-harvest interval of, for instance, 7 days, depending on the efficacy of the product. So what it means is that you shouldn't harvest your crops until after the 7 days.
Mm-hmm.
If you do, then there still be some residues on it. So these have been scientifically proven. Now, those ones that have not been scientifically proven do not have these PHIs, pre-harvest intervals. So farmers would spray and wouldn't know the right time they would have to go and then harvest, because it's not on the label, it's not been proven. Go and harvest, and then you don't know the PHI, and then the residues are still on the produce. So you eat these crops, you eat this produce that has residues of these counterfeit pesticides on it, and then it's going to have damning effects on the human health as well. And that is where I was saying, even to a largest extent, talking about exports, the EU markets and then other international markets are also very particular about residue levels. If you quite remember, I think in the early 2000s, Ghana, they banned Ghana from exporting pineapples.
Mm-hmm.
And that was largely because of the residue level. The MRLs were very high.
Okay.
The MRLs were very high. So markets are very keen on these MRLs. And if you don't use the right and approved pesticides, you are going to increase the residue levels of these produce, which will not be fit for consumption.
I mean, to what extent does this affect? Because certainly it will affect sustainable agriculture
Exactly.
and then food security. To
Exactly.
what extent does it affect that?
So, as I said, as CropLife, we maintain stewardship, and our companies that bring in these pesticide products pass through the right channels to register and get them approved for sale in the market. Developing one active ingredient is very costly. It's very, very costly. So from the industry's perspective, it's kind of limits or reduces innovation. Because if I have to use 5 to 8 years to develop a product, and then someone sits somewhere and then develops a similar product with an unknown active ingredient and sells in the market, it's going to have a toll on my market share as well. And the research and then the innovations and all the stewardship I have put into it will not count. And the market share will now shift to those in the business of the counterfeit and illegal pesticides. We all know from the Ministry of Agri's data, we know that agriculture in itself contributes to about 54% of our GDP. And that is very significant. Let's take the agriculture sector. It's divided into 5. We have the crops, the livestock, cocoa, fisheries, and then a forestry. So I would concentrate on the crops. Now, what it means is that if innovation goes down, and then the counterfeit and the illegal pesticides are taking over the markets, production yields are going to go down, production is going to go down, and then food security is going to be affected in the long run. So this has a trickling effect to the national food security. And the thing about counterfeit and illegal pesticides is that if it's supposed to be a collective effort in fighting this, because you might never know where the produce, the vegetables you are buying in the Makola market are coming from.
Yep.
So we all need to get involved in the fight and then sensitize the general public that when you are buying these products, go to the approved and licensed agro-input dealers to get them. And you realize that because there's no, people do not invest in the research before they do these counterfeits, their costs in the market are usually very lower than the approved and registered ones. So, and in Ghana too, the farmers will usually go in for the very cheap pesticides, not thinking about the effects of it. Yes. So we look at the cost element and then we normally go for the cheap ones because that is what they can afford. And these are the ones that really have a lot of effects on our food security as a country.
So if you look at the initiatives that you've put together, I mean, you've said a lot that CropLife has been doing.
Yeah.
What form of education have you given to these farmers and even consumers to actually avoid buying products that, I mean, counterfeit pesticides were used in doing? I mean, how do they even identify that these products have counterfeit pesticides? And for the farmers, how do they also, I bet you some of them may not know that they are counterfeit.
Yeah. So as I mentioned first, we work very closely with the Environmental Protection Agency. There's a department called the Chemical Control and Management Center, which is in charge of pesticide registration, control, and management. So we work hand in hand with them. Now we are looking at it as a multi-stakeholder sensitization program. Not to look at only the farmers, even we have targeted the media as well in the past to sensitize them, to make that noise out there, to let people understand that, okay, these are the effects. We've run a number of programs and training programs together with the EPA, as I mentioned. Somewhere last year, we trained the Attorney General's Department, the Department of Public Prosecution as well, together with EPA. We trained them on pesticide laws and regulations in Ghana so that they can position themselves very well to understand, to prosecute offenders who are being caught in the trade of counterfeit and other illegal pesticides. Beyond that, we have also trained, we've collaborated with the EPA to train a good number of national security service personnel. We've looked at the customs, immigration, Ghana police as well. We've trained them that, okay, this counterfeit and illegal pesticide usually comes in through the unapproved routes, which are the borders, and so we need to tackle it from that angle first. So that's when a truck is bringing in these products, they can detect if these are genuine or counterfeit, or if these are registered or unregistered, and they'll be seized from the source before it even gets into the country. So we've trained these national security services as well, together with the EPA, and that has been very effective. I think last year, after the training, we had 1 or 2 cases where some trucks were being seized, and then they were coming in from the Francophone countries, which the products were not approved for use because they were written in French. And all products that you see that are not in the original official language, which is English, are not approved for use here. If you take the label, there are a lot of informations that farmers can get from it. Now, if it's in French, obviously they are challenged.
Yeah.
So the laws of Ghana says that whatever pesticide products you are going to use, the label should be in the official working language of the country, which is English. So general public should be well that, okay, when you see products out there that have Chinese labels and French are not registered or legally registered for use here. We train agro-input dealers as well. Just last 2 weeks, we were in the Upper East region, together with the PPRSD, the Plant Protection and Regulatory Service Department. Trained a number of agro-input dealers as well to be able to identify what is counterfeit and what is not, what is illegal and what is not, so that they can also be able to identify them at source and not collect them and sell it to unsuspecting farmers. So we've trained these agro-input dealers as well. Together with EPA, we were also in Tamale. We trained a number of agro-input dealers as well. They have an association called the GAIDA, Ghana Agri-Input Dealers Association. It was an effective training, and then they came to understand that, okay, these are how to identify counterfeit and illegal pesticides. So from there, they also become wary, and they'll be more, they would open their eyes to some of these things to be sure that, okay, what they are selling to the farmers are genuine and registered products. And then at the farmer levels too, we do a lot of trainings and sensitizations with them. It's obvious that we cannot reach out to all the farmers.
Yeah.
So we do a lot of media sensitization as well, digitalization, where we sensitize these farmers on how to identify counterfeit and illegal pesticides and where to report the cases when these things come up.
Right. So it's quite interesting that we're still seeing these counterfeits.
Yeah.
I mean, with this level of education that you've done for farmers and stakeholders, we're still seeing this. But definitely we need to get somewhere. And it's something that we'll be looking out for in the course of this discussion. What will be the solution to this problem? Definitely there must be a solution somewhere. Iron Port, of course, is powered by GPHA and is sponsored by Gold PLC, Serene Insurance. Let's just go and hear from our sponsors.
Good energy brings you quality choices with Goil Super XP. Available in many Goil stations nationwide. It is fortified with special additives that help your engine perform better and use less fuel. Branch into a Goil station today and energize your ride with Goil Super XP, compatible with most vehicles. Goil Super XP, Wufilia, huh? Wubefi. Goil, good energy. Ja, ja, ja.
Electricity, then pay your taxes. Yeah. Our taxes, our future.
Because you see, without our taxes, we wouldn't have good roads, good schools, better hospitals, street lights, and other very important social amenities. When we pay our taxes, we give our children free and quality education. Talga, my money too small. Why should I pay my tax? Look, small. Salifo, it doesn't matter how small or big your business or income is. You still have to pay your taxes. The little taxes from each and every one of us, when put together, could give your community clean water or that deprived school with tables and chairs. Please pay your taxes. It is your responsibility. It is your civic duty. It is the law.
MPS Terminal 3 is Africa's new state-of-the-art container terminal at Tema Port. For manufacturers, agro-processors and traders, the new port means business can be done faster. This infrastructure boost will improve Ghana's port handling capacity, connect more trading routes, and oil the engine of growth for the economy, creating greater opportunities across all sectors as Africa's markets merge and become the largest trading bloc globally. MPS, we connect, you thrive.
Business and life can be like the sea sometimes. Sometimes serene, sometimes calm, sometimes turbulent, and at times it brings the unexpected. However it is like, trust Phoenix Insurance for your home, car, business, and marine insurance needs. Call 0302 246 319 or 0243 690 492.
At Phoenix, you experience a delightful service delivered with wisdom.
Welcome back to Iron Pot. Iron Pot is powered by GPHA. Of course, your messages are already coming in. Remember, we'll also be opening the phone line 0205 5283 0205 5283 so you can also have your say. But I have a few questions for you, Mr. Kadri Rashad. This one is coming from Thomas from Tamale. He says, good evening, Iron Port. Please ask your guests what specific regulations are currently in place to prevent the importation and sale of counterfeit and illegal pesticides in the country. You have an answer? Sure.
So, as I mentioned, the pesticide industry is guided by the EPA Act, which was enacted in 1994, Act 490. And the EPA is solely in charge of registering and approving pesticides in Ghana. So any pesticide product in Ghana that doesn't have an EPA registration number on it is not recognized and must be treated as counterfeit.
Okay. And this one is coming from Danso from Ningo. He says, great discussions. Kindly ask the crop life man if there are any new technologies or innovations being used to identify and track counterfeit pesticides. He's actually jumped into
what's
where
your next discussion.
Going.
Yes. So should I hold? But
go ahead.
talking about innovations, we've, as I said, CropLife is an international network. We've tried to use what we call the serialization, where we put on barcodes on pesticide products, and farmers or users are able to scratch the label, and then whatever code is revealed, you text to find out the authenticity of it. But this has also come up with challenges.
Yeah.
You know, the counterfeit industry also evolves as we evolve along.
Mm-hmm.
It was piloted in Nigeria, and they also had a way of getting into the system to infiltrate these codings, and it was a challenge. Now, what we also realize is that, you know, with the commercial farms, they buy these pesticide products in huge quantities. And I mean, you can't take time to go through each barcode. It's going to be time wasting, and then so we are still working around the clock with the Environmental Protection Agency. But now what you can do is that there are a few signs that you can look out for in every pesticide product. As I said, the EPA has a list of approved and registered pesticide products in Ghana, and which is available on their website, and you could also contact CropLife Ghana, will make it available for you. And the agro dealers that we train, we make this approved list available for them as well. It is within their reach. Once you have this approved list of pesticides, you can be guided by this list on the type of products that you buy. That should also curb the proliferation of these pesticide, counterfeit and illegal pesticides as well. Now, we can also use just simple logic. Sometimes you buy some pesticide products and the label doesn't seem right.
Okay.
The label doesn't seem right. The lid is not well sealed.
Mm-hmm.
There should be a seal in it. It shouldn't be broken.
Okay.
The label should be well done, and there should be an EPA registration number on it. So these are basics that we can be looking out for when buying pesticides, to be sure that we are buying the right and approved pesticides.
Mm.
But ultimately, let's be guided by the list of approved lists that the EPA usually releases every year.
That's why it's so important to have collaborations with other organizations.
Exactly.
And that's why I want to find out, CropLife Ghana, what collaborative initiatives do you have with other organizations in helping check this counterfeit pesticides?
Yes, so as I mentioned, I would come back to the EPA again. We are doing a lot of collaboration with them because they are the government sole regulatory body in charge of pesticides. And then also the PPRSD, that's the Plant Protection Regulatory Services Department of the Ministry of Food and Agriculture, PPRSD. We do a lot of collaborations with them. As I speak now, last 2 months, we were in the field with the EPA and then the Ghana Police Service. We raided markets together with EPA and the Ghana Police Service and CropLife. We raided a lot of markets, selected markets, and then we seized these counterfeit and illegal pesticides in these markets. And what we realized was that even some of these agro-input dealers did not even know that they were counterfeited. And then after that, we took time to train them on identifying these counterfeit and illegal pesticides. So the collaborative efforts are still going on. We are still doing the raids. We started from the north. The next one will be in the middle belt, and then we'll be coming down south as well to conduct those raids.
Okay.
They were very effective, and then we did it together with the media as well. And in my earlier submission, I did mention that the media is also very, very important in this discussion. Because once the media also understands how these pesticide products work, what counterfeits are, what illegal are, they can also be able to blow the whistle if there is a suspicion of any trade in counterfeit or illegal pesticides in any markets in Ghana.
You talked about challenges.
Yeah.
What specific challenges are you faced with in this regard?
The challenges are many. As I said, we would have Ghana is a big space. And sometimes personnel, resources, financial resources. We get support from our companies that bring in these products as part of their extended producer responsibility. Then we also support EPA as well with finances and then technical resources. But we still need more government support as well, because this is a sector that government doesn't really push in resources into. If you go to the regulatory authorities, most of them they are incapacitated, vehicles to move around. Now we are even advocating to get the EPA what we call a mobile testing van, that they can move around to test these products as and when they see them in the market, so that it will deter those selling them to stop. Currently, we are also working with the EPA on a pesticide post-registration monitoring and surveillance. What that means is that after even the registration, we are now going into the market to monitor the products that are being placed in the market for sale, whether this is what was registered or these are not registered products. So we have started that exercise with the EPA nationwide. We are taking samples for testing to be sure that the products that have been approved for use in the markets are what we actually have in the markets for use.
There's a rather interesting message here for you. It says, "Hi, I'm Jojo. I agree with most of the things your guest is saying, but find out from him what mechanisms are in place for farmers or consumers to report suspicious or counterfeit pesticide products."
Sure. So that is a very good. That is where we have to start from, where farmers should be able to report. Now, at your district, if it is in the interior, the closest to the farmers are usually the agriculture extension agents. So if it is in the localized or interior farming communities, the closest to them are the agriculture extension agents. Now, beyond that, you can also go to the nearest district department of agriculture, food and agriculture in that locality. If there is an EPA office close by, that would be the surest bet. Or you could also phone CropLife to make this report, and then we'll take it up with the regulators to make the seizures.
I want us to look at the bigger picture. Indeed, we've been talking about how this affects farmers, how this affects consumers. But earlier you made mention of how the EU market is much interested in what happens to what we export to the European countries. What's the economic impact on Ghana? I mean, with this counterfeit pesticides?
Yes, so the economic impact is great, because I give you the example of the pineapples and then other products that have higher residues because they are using the counterfeit products. And you know how agric contributes to our GDP. So if the residue levels are high, then the import bill goes down. Currently, agric, as we know, it contributes about 40% to our export revenues. And with these counterfeit and illegal pesticides taking center stage, our exports would start dwindling. And what it means is that our foreign income exchange that we are getting from these exports would also go down. And then it's going to affect our GDP and then foreign income earnings as well. So it goes beyond our tables to affect the country's trade economics. It goes beyond to affect the country's trade economics.
Okay.
So markets are now being very careful about the pesticide products that we use on our produce, and then the residue levels that are coming up with them. When they test them, they know that, okay, these products has residue levels, and then the active ingredients that they have seen are not even recognized by the local and international authorities. Then they would cut down import on those ones. We are also looking closely with the environmental protection on what we refer to as HHPs, highly hazardous pesticides. There are also a few of these active ingredients that have been seen to have high level of risk, dietary and then nutritional risk, and even risks to the crops and the environment. So we've been able to identify a few of these active ingredients in the system. Currently, we've looked at least 22 active ingredients in Ghana that have been identified as HHPs. So together with the EPA, we are finding strategies to remove these HHPs from the markets so that it doesn't pose any nutritional or dietary or environmental risks or even human health risks to the farmers, the crops, and the environment as a whole. So these HHPs to have been identified together with the EPA, and then we are taking steps as industry together with the EPA to look at how we can take out all these HHPs from our markets to make it safe. Safe.
In terms of cost and profitability for farmers and even smallholder farmers and even commercial farmers, what's the effect? Or, I mean, to what extent does it affect cost and profitability for these?
So I always want to give you practical examples. For instance, have what we call resistance. Now, if you, as a farmer, you use a counterfeit or illegal pesticide on your produce, the contents are unknown. What it means is that if you keep on spraying them on the crops, they are likely to build what we call resistance. So now you would have to, if they build resistance, whatever you are spraying on it, it doesn't take effect on the crops. And then the pests are going to take control of whatever crops or produce you are having. And then you are going to have a lot of yield losses in there. So counterfeit and illegal pesticides have dire consequences on both the small-scale farmer and then the commercial farmers. Now, it is, as I said, it is a collective effort. We need to come together to sensitize the general public and take responsibility on where we are buying these products from and who we are buying these products from, so that we can be able to reduce these effects. Because it has a lot of cost implications. Imagine now a pesticide product, for instance. I'll take you back a little bit. We have been battling with government recently because of the removal of the tax exemptions. Initially, when you are bringing in agri-inputs into Ghana, you are exempted from the import duty because agric is a sensitive sector in the economy. So agric imports were exempted from tax, the duty. 2022, the imports exemptions were removed. Now, when you are bringing in inputs, you are supposed to pay the full tax of it. And what it means is that the cost of the products have also gone up. Now, if you don't buy the original one, and you keep buying the fake, the counterfeit and the illegal pesticides, you are going to keep on spending more and more and more on a product that is not yielding results.
Okay.
And then before you realize, even the small produce you get from your farm, you might have used it to buy the counterfeited and illegal pesticide. So we urge government that, let these taxes reinstate the exemptions so that the cost would come down and farmers would have access to affordable inputs, pesticides, fertilizers, and seeds as well.
Let me read this message from AEC from Kumasi. He says, I'm enjoying your discussion. Find out from your guests if the counterfeit and illegal pesticides are the cause of the early deterioration of our fruits and vegetables.
Yes, to a larger extent. And to some extent too, we have what we call the misuse and the misapplication. So when we talk about misuse and misapplication, sometimes farmers do not read the instructions on the pesticide labels. For instance, you are instructed to apply, let's say, 1 liter per hectare. And then a farmer says, okay, for quick results, I am applying 2 liters per hectare. What it means is that, this has been scientifically proven for 1 liter per hectare. If you apply 2 liters per hectare, there's going to be an overdose.
True.
And when there's an overdose, there's going to be high residues left on the crops, on the produce. And if you take them home, the residues will still have effect on the produce that we are doing. And in other jurisdictions, that's why I say misuse and misapplication. If it is 1 liter per hectare, and you say, okay, I need to save some change, so I'm applying half a liter, so that the next time I'm also applying the half, it's not going to work as it was supposed to be. And when you bring this produce home, then you're going to have a challenge with it. And one other issue that affects this produce that goes bad in the house is the pre-harvest interval I was talking about. On the pesticide products, it is clearly stated the number of days you are supposed to observe before you can harvest your produce, but most farmers do not pay attention to that. As I said, there was an instance where I saw with my own eyes, and this farmer was spraying his tomato farm with a pesticide product. I don't want to mention the name. And almost immediately, I saw some women right behind him plugging the tomatoes.
Wow.
So it caught my attention. I got there and I asked them, okay, I looked at the bottle and then it was 7 days.
Wow. Wow.
It was 7, the PHI was 7 days. So what it meant was that before the 7 days, if you harvested, you are still going to harvest a lot of residues on your tomatoes.
True.
So when I asked him, he said, okay, when they plug it like that, it ripens quickly. So in most of the cases, you see some of these the products in the markets, on the outside, it looks very fresh. You cut them and then it's still green inside. So a lot of our farmers do not take particular attention on the labels.
Sometimes it's also deliberate because they want quick
Exactly.
results.
And I tell you what, Aisha, I've had instances where farmers have told me that consumers have repeatedly told them to spray. They are coming to buy.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay. That's an interesting one. But
in Accra here.
The agric import dealers,
Yes.
how can they be more proactive to, prevent some of these counterfeit pesticides from entering the market?
Yes, that is why I say it's a collective effort. For me, it has to start from the farmer level. It has to start from the farmer level. Because if the farmers understand that, okay, I need to buy my inputs or pesticides from a registered input dealer, then we are halfway through the problem. If they come to the registered input dealers, obviously the products they have gotten have been certified and approved by the EPA. But in most cases, as I said, the farmers are used to buying from wayside, no traceability, mobile vans, which is not acceptable. There's no traceability. If just like the pharmaceuticals, if you want to get a para, you need to walk into a pharmacy because there's traceability. If you go and there's an issue, you can always come back. And that is the first point that we need to let the farmers understand that, okay, buy your pesticides from the approved, registered, and trained agri-input dealers across the country. But farmers sometimes feel that, to cut corners and then to cut costs, they will just buy from the wayside. And especially on these market days, you see people bringing in on pesticides on bicycles and they vanish. No traceability.
I believe that in trying to prevent this, we should know the cause or the factors that contribute to the availability of these counterfeit pesticides. Do you know?
Yes. So as that sector is, as I said, is just like any other sector. It is difficult to uproot it. We can only do our bit to reduce it, because a lot of these counterfeit and illegal pesticides come from the unapproved borders. And we need to check our borders too. And as I said, we've trained these border security service personnel to be able to identify and tackle them. And then we've also had reports where some people somewhere in Ghana here are also seated and then changing labels and concocting. So if you have, it is difficult for us to sit here and detect. So if you as a farmer and as an input dealer or someone just a user of the pesticide, you buy something from someone, there should be that traceability so that if it is a suspected product, we can always trace back to the source of it. But if you buy from the wayside, someone who is mobile vans that are, if there's an issue, it will be difficult to trace back. And that is where the challenge is. So in cases where the raids and seizures that we did up north, we're able to trace to a few people and then we apprehended them. They were prosecuted. We did that with the EPA and the Ghana police because there was that traceability system. So we need to all get involved. These are very sensitive products. Pesticides are very sensitive, and we shouldn't treat them like the water that we drink. We should know where we buy them. They should be from the approved and licensed dealers.
In all of this, what role does the Food and Drugs Authority and the Ghana Standards Board play?
Yes, so we work closely with the Standard Authority as well because they also give standards. So it's a cohort. So what we have what we call the Pesticide Technical Committee, which the Standard Authority is also part of. So they look at issues of pesticides, they give the standardization, and they work closely with EPA as well. So we work with Standards Authority on the actives, the content of it, how to apply them, how to use, and they even test what we call the active ingredients. They advise on the application, the liters per acre or per knapsack to be used on your crops. Okay. So the Standard Authority is also doing very well, and we've had very good engagements with them over the past few years as well.
What's your long-term plan? I mean, CropLife Ghana, your long-term plan in helping to address these pesticides, counterfeit pesticides, to improve or actually promote sustainable agriculture?
So, as I said, this is a really dicey issue, and even it goes beyond CropLife Ghana to CropLife International. So we are having a global approach to fighting counterfeit and illegal pesticides. And our approach is to sensitize the public, farmers, users, all users of pesticides and all users of pesticide products in the country. Sensitization, capacity building, training, and then arrest and prosecution. Sometimes we realize that a lot of people have been caught in the trap of selling counterfeit and illegal pesticides. But what has been missing in this chain has always been the prosecution aspect. And that is why we are also collaborating with the Attorney General's Department, the Department of Public Prosecution, so that we can prosecute offenders who are caught in the sale and distribution of counterfeit and illegal pesticides and continue. Sensitization is a process. Okay. It's not an event. We'll continue sensitizing the general public, farmers, and then users of pesticides that they should use the right and approved pesticide products by buying them from the licensed and trained input dealers across the length and breadth of the country.
Dr. Rashid Kadiri.
Yeah.
Kadiri Rashad.
Kadiri Rashad.
I've conferred
hopefully. Hopefully.
Thank you so much for coming. Viewers, that will be all for this evening. Thanks so much for your time. And of course, Mr. Kadiri Rashad is the Executive Director at Crop Life Ghana. And a big thank you to our sponsors, Ghana Revenue Authority, Gold PLC, Serene Insurance, Ghana Link Network Services, Meridian Port Services, and Phoenix Insurance. The show is proudly powered by Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, GPHA, and our media partner, the Business and Financial Times, VNFT. Thank you so much, viewers, for watching. Remember to catch the abridged version on Wednesday on GTV. Have a lovely evening.